Hi, welcome back. So we are in Chapter 1, Introduction, to discuss the outline of timeline representative. Now, in this outline, what we're going to actually look at is the major important steps that we have taken through the book, The Big Bang of Data Science. So essentially, in the first step, we need three important characteristic or pillar. And in the first sub-step that we need to take, it's to identify the RQ, which is called the research question. As we have discussed in the first book, Research from the Start to the End, we have come to understand how to articulate a research question. And once a research question has been articulated, we move to the second step by defining something called the research data, or the RD step. You start to identify the type of data you need, or the space of variables, in other words, you need in order to find a right solution or answer to your research question. We call it the QV, or the quantifying variables. Once we have identified the set of variables as we spoke about in the first book, we need to find a way to quantify them, to measure them. In the second step, we take another three sub-steps. In the first one, we call it the data collection. Since I have identified the variables, I know how to quantify them, and everything is in order, I start to collect the data. So the data collection can take many different forms. The second sub-step is to make something called the data processing, where you start to process the data, clean the data, make it available in a certain form or shape. And then you start to report on the data at hand, where you introduce the first essential draft of your analytical model. Third major step, first you need to create what's called the essential analysis. And then you start the analysis in a formal way. Finally, you introduce what's called the knowledge report. And now once you have the knowledge report to the last step, which include again a three sub-step in it. The first one, I call it the intelligence analysis. Next, you do some kind of a feature extraction. And finally, of course, you introduce what's called the predictive modeling. So I think the major importance of the Big Bang of Data Science in this digital book, in the first book, we have accomplished these three steps. On the second step, part of it was done in the first book, and the other part was focused on the second book. In addition to that, the third step here also accomplished in the second book. Now we are at the third book, Prediction from the Start to the End, which is basically going to explain every details in this last step, plus of course some maybe a related part of the previous step. Eventually, I hope the idea of this timeline representative is quite clear to you, and as an output of this, the final model, we can take that model and shape it in a digital software. Maybe we'll shape it in a physical device or electronic device, whatever you like. Now we are ready to move to Chapter 2. In this chapter, we're going to talk about the story of math. I will see you then.